This video is to introduce you to our new workbook, the Workbook for Art Teachers, and the companion book is called the Workbook for Art Students, and it's in blue on the cover. This is going to be taking over for our previous title, the Art Students Workbook. Because we wanted to do so many changes to the old workbook and it expanded, we needed to do a new title. So the other one will remain in print, but this will be our new book, which has been expanded, and I'm going to focus in on the things that are new for this particular book. So our resources are very similar in the book. However, you will notice that there will be links to YouTube channels, YouTube videos, and my blog. So as I'm presenting a lesson, I'm making it available to you as you use the workbook. I am too in my own classroom. We've added a first art class survey, and then there's another survey at the back of the book for students. So it's a first day survey where they define how would they define art, what art principles, elements are they aware of, and those kinds of things. And then they would sketch their table mate on the back of the page, and we can see growth over time because their drawing, hopefully at the end of the course, is going to be better. And we can see some more of their growth and even get suggestions for the teacher at the end of the course. So here's an example. In the previous book we had the elements and principles, but then this is a YouTube video that is me presenting the art elements or the art principles. So that's going to be linked in the new teacher's edition. The coloring expectations, this picture was changed out. The last one was kind of jokey and some people didn't appreciate that. So I removed my sense of humor from the books moving forward. But this same information is also on the back of the student workbooks and the teacher one. So we could see how cross-hatching should be handled. 1 meaning that's the lowest level and 4 is kind of our goal. Marker, color pencil, watercolor, paper cut, painting, to kind of move students towards doing better with their practice. This color wheel is what I call an emotional color wheel. It's just a basic sort of reference. So we understand that in general, reds tend to be the most aggressive, oranges move away from that, yellow tends to be the most positive, blue tends to be the most calm. But there will be cultural nuances that can be covered when you do a course where you're trying to do color and shape relating to emotional values for an abstract unit. So this is all to kind of help you in color because the book generally is black and white. So as we move forward in some other editions, so here's a project outline or scaffold, and you'll see that with these projects, the students are doing some pre-writing. So what I know about myself, or how the world sees me, how I see the world, or how I see my future. So by starting with a list, and then students could reinterpret this for an artwork either as a painting, a drawing, a sculpture, a ceramic work. It's really up to you how you want to use this information to create a personalized work of art. And then again, I have some teacher resources here in different ways that I have sort of handled this. If you're at a loss of what to do with this, that's available to you. In the student edition, there will be sketch pages available to them so that the book sort of becomes a portfolio at the end of the course. I've added a printmaking page with some printmaking vocabulary. And the kind of printmaking you might want to explore with your students. They can fill out this information. In the student edition, there's going to be a sketch page, so if you have a printmaking unit and you want them to sketch out some ideas, that will be available to you. The book will continue to contain some face proportions, body proportions, resources for you, but in this one I've added a fashion unit, which has been very popular with my students. I have a teacher resource linked for you here. It is not in the student edition. So you can preview that and see if it's something you'd like to do. So I give some basic images of proportion that students could actually draw on top of. The student edition has 3 pages like this. I think it's a good time to introduce gesture drawing if you want to do that. But that is something that's been added to this particular edition. Then the other thing that's been added to this that is not in the previous books is an independent project exploration. My advanced books are based on this, but I decided to include some of this because you will come across students who maybe towards the end of the semester or the end of the course, you want them to choose their own project. So I give you an inspiration list of topics that goes from Gothic art through op art, or they can focus on a culture and then do some studies on that, or maybe focus on a contemporary artist. Then again, this becomes the scaffold so the student can kind of show their work. So they pick what their inspirational topic is, whether it's Gothic art or Egyptian artifacts or something. They define it. They find 4 famous examples. What do these things have in common? What ideas or themes come from this work? And what could I create? So they're supposed to put 3 ideas and sketch here. So 2 and 3 become their backup in case this one doesn't pan out. And then as they work, they would redocument here. So the inspiration for this project is, my concept is, it's connected to my inspiration idea because, and then they give it a title. You would set the intro date for this independent study, sketches, transferring designs, begin the final project, what's the deadline for this work, and then the students can break down the outlines, like if there's certain things they need to do. If they're working in clay, then there will be different outlines than if they were working in paint. This page is for the instructor only, and the idea of this is as students are working independently, I would go around through the period and maybe, let's say Johnny is 25% done with their work. I would initial at the 25% line. If 2 days later I come back around and we're still at 25%, I know I need to have a discussion with this student about why they are not moving forward. Because students will work at different paces, so this kind of helps. But maybe Johnny jumps from 25 to 50%, or even 80%. And maybe they're going to finish early. So then I can have a talk with them about how they can dive a little deeper into their project to do that if we need to. Then I have a universal rubric. The idea of this is 90% is meeting expectations. If they feel they're exceeding expectations, they would write in how they're actually exceeding those expectations. And we have it broken down into elements, principles, craftsmanship, and neatness. And neatness isn't necessarily like, how neat the project looks or something. It's really more about, does it look like their project was thrown in their backpack or, shoved behind a cabinet? Were they paying attention to that part of the neatness? I'm not referring to actual artwork neatness here. Time and management, were they on their phones or were they obviously engaged in their work or maybe even helping someone else in their class? Execution, originality, and uniqueness, does it seem to follow along with, some examples, or did they do something wholly new, or did they essentially copy a resource? And then requirements and depth. Did they hit all of the notes that you were expecting out of this? And did they make personal connections? So that could be some notes that are put in there. So the student workbook will have 2 of these independent projects. But you as the teacher with the teacher's edition could make copies of this for additional independent studies. But if you're going to do a course based on that, then you would probably want to order our advanced art workbook because it's totally based on students setting up their own projects. The art quotes are similar to all of the other books, but I have updated all of these quotes and I made sure that the themes are a little bit more diverse. And I have two resources, one on my blog and one is a YouTube video that kind of walks students through the process. So it's just a 5-minute exercise where the students read a famous quote about artists or about art or by a famous artist, and then they write down their interpretation of it. So we're making our literacy connections. I do this every Monday, and by the end of the year, they've gotten through 26 of these. Towards the back of the book, we have information for your 504 IEP students. So if they're struggling with vocabulary or concepts, I would quietly talk to them to the side and tell them, hey, look on page 122 or 123, and then they could work with their parent or whatever to work on vocabulary if you have an upcoming quiz, and this is something that would be helpful for you. So there's all of that is kind of in here. There's even kind of a sample test if you wish to use that. Then I have 4 different research choices. So there's the simple one-page research, or it could be done as a poster. And I have a sample there. The students could actually plan out a poster, or it could be one done as an interview. I call it Interview with a Dead Artist, with lots and lots of questions that could be answered in the first person to avoid plagiarism. This is one I've been doing probably for the last 10 years, and it's been very popular with my students, along with a rubric. And then there's another one where students would find 4 to 6 famous works from history and then create a story, some creative writing that would string those 4 to 6 images together. I worked with an English teacher to kind of develop this, where they plan out their characters, their setting, their plot, and their resolution. And then they would do additional research about each artwork and about each artist that they use. These are planning guide sheets. And then again, there is a rubric for you. Then we have our art history planning pages. My book covers from the Renaissance through pop art. You could obviously do more than that. And again, I have some links to videos I've created on each of those major schools of art. And we even have a flow chart that kind of helps students identify work and what time period it would be from. This book has extra project reflections. This is new to our workbooks. So if you have a very large unit and you want students to kind of reflect on that, there are 6 pages like this in the student edition. So they put in the title, the media, explanation of the goals, a description, connections to self, community, culture, or traditions, explaining their process, knowledge they had before the project, something they learned or figured out through the project, the most successful part. If I had to do it over again, I would. And then I hope others would view my work with this in mind. So we have that to help them out. And then again, another push for literacy in art. I developed this again with an English teacher, a literacy rubric, and then we have several compare and contrast pages. And each one builds up to become a little bit more challenging. And there's prompts there for students to do their writing. So compare and contrast these 2 famous works of art, no prompt. The students can write right there. Here, 2 works of art, and then we have a prompt of a checklist of at least 3 similarities and 3 differences. The next one, we've got 2 on the checklist, 3 on the checklist, 4 on the checklist, 5, and then 6. And then the final one, this could be used as a final exam if you wanted to. You could work with an English teacher to, grade it, so to speak, but then by the end, their literacy skills will have definitely improved. I still have our video note resources in both of these workbooks. Short videos for YouTube, longer videos like a 45 to an hour video where students write 20 facts about what they saw, summarize the video, what can you infer, and then if you choose to grade it, you can just circle 100%, or if they only did 75% of it, you could give a 75 as a grade. That would be up to you. Another thing that's new are formal critiquing pages, along with the previous informal ones. So the informal ones just take a few minutes where they're reflecting on, their own work or the work of a peer, neatness, completeness, originality, and following directions. What was the strongest thing? What principle was the strongest? What element was the strongest? What was most successful besides completeness? What could be improved? What can you infer about the artist based on their work? And then the formal critique uses the one that many schools do, which is to describe, analyze, interpret, and evaluate. And then there's going to be, in the teacher's edition, we have our project ideas pages. So I've got years and years worth of project ideas. Some will have links to my blog where you can see more, but these will help you with different projects, both 2D and 3D, and some samples. The book will end with 2 grading rubrics. So one is a fairly simple one where students grade themselves, I grade my students, and then we compare the 2 grades. So if a student says they give themselves an A for originality, but I know that they've copied from a resource, so I give them a C for originality. We can have a discussion about what we mean by originality, and they will improve as they continue working. Because some of these might be misinterpreted, like particularly neatness, I have the rubric kind of breakdown over here. So for neatness, an A is not folded, ripped, cracked, smudged, wrinkled, or messy, pristine condition. Whereas an F would be substantial folds, rips, wrinkles, smudges, etc. So I've broken down what each of those terms means, because neatness isn't about, how well the project looks neat. It's really about the handling of the materials that were given to the student. Then we have our universal rubric. Again, 90% is the goal of the students, and if they exceed expectations, they have to write in how they exceeded expectations, or circle maybe how they missed them. and to what degree that they did. And here's our final class survey. And then in the teacher's edition, I have some extra resources in the back for ordering supplies and different kinds of ideas like that, quiz answers. But then I have this page, which some people have found helpful, is 10 rules to a museum visit. So if you need a handout, this can be cut out and copied and given to your students if they're going to go outside and visit a museum. So I hope you found this helpful. The Art Students Workbook will remain in print if you already have some and you wish to continue ordering those. But this book will be the one that we're going to be editing moving forward from this point. And I feel it has more depth and allows the teacher a little bit more leeway in what it is they would like to do with their students. If you'd like to order a class set, budgets are tight, I understand. We can figure out ways of helping you get class sets through Donors Choose and Amazon. And we do offer substantial discounts if you're ordering class sets. Just contact us at firehousepublications.com. Thank you very much.